Mindanao, the southernmost region of the Philippines, torn by armed conflict and separatist movements for decades.
Takbir! Allahu Akbar! Takbir! Allahu Akbar! Okay!
But recently, there's been a different kind of revolution, one that is changing the face of Mindanao. Not too far away in Maguindanao province, Commander Daud Guiama of the Moro National Liberation Front, or the MNLF, is inspecting his crops. Back in the 70s until the late 90s, this area was a hotbed of MNLF rebel activities. But today, the only war Commander Daud and his fellow ex-rebels are fighting is the one against corn pests and diseases. Hundreds of kilometers away, under the midday sun, MNLF Commander Elol Salim is making his regular rounds off the island of Sulu. A trader by profession, Commander Elol used to evade naval patrols while transporting untaxed goods from Malaysia to the islands of Tawi-Tawi and Sulu and back. Using his seafaring experience, he also played a key role in organizing the combat activities of the MNLF fighters in the 70s and 80s. These days, however, he's busy managing activities of a more peaceful and profitable kind. The transformation of Commander Daud and Elol from guerrilla fighter to peacekeeper and from combatant to capitalist is not unique. Throughout the autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao, or ARMM, thousands more like them have made the leap of faith, from rebel insurgents to being productive members of civil society. The United States government, through the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, launched the Emergency Livelihood Assistance Program, or ELAP, in 1997, in response to a request made by the Philippine government to help provide MNLF combatants with a means of making a sustainable living. Later renamed the Livelihood Enhancement and Peace, or LEAP program, the project supported the 1996 peace agreement, which marked the end of more than 2 decades of fighting between the Islamic rebel group and government forces. Of the 45,000 combatants who stood down, 7,500 were integrated into the armed forces and the Philippine National Police. The rest began life anew while waiting for some kind of peace dividend from the national government. Among the non-military integrees was MNLF Commander Daud Guiama of Barangay Kiteb in Talitay, Maguindanao Province. A high school dropout, he joined the MNLF in 1970 and was involved in active combat operations for more than a decade.
We joined the MNLF because government soldiers were already arresting a lot of men. Sometimes they even killed them. So we joined the MNLF. We hid in the mountains where the soldiers could not find us.
Upon the signing of the peace agreement, Commander Daud was among the first MNLF rebels to return to civilian life. Although he did not surrender his arms, he was nevertheless committed to a new and peaceful life. However, the transition proved more difficult than he expected.
When you returned from hiding in the mountains, didn't you find it difficult to adjust to your new life?
It was difficult because we didn't have any livelihood. We didn't have any capital. We tried farming, planting rice. We also planted native corn before ELAP came in.
In contrast, Commander Elol says he easily adjusted to life outside the MNLF. Armed with his innate entrepreneurial skills, it wasn't long before he engaged in a more lawfully acceptable business.
I went to the Copra and Abaca business.
Unfortunately, the situation in Mindanao was not the most ideal for the thousands of other ex-rebels who were then starting a new life. Years of violence and strife caused by the secessionist movement had left the area lagging in investment and development. Its population of more than 5 million Muslims was and still is amongst the poorest and least educated in this predominantly Catholic nation of 80 million.
I have proclaimed martial law in accordance with the power.
The turbulent years during the dictatorship of President Ferdinand Marcos also left many emotional and psychological scars amongst its people. Take Ustads Napisa Gimaludin from Buluan, Mindanao, and senior MNLF commander Naramin Husin of Basilan. Both joined the MNLF to escape the random violence and persecution from Marcos's soldiers in the 70s.
Nang dumating ang martial law, lahat ng kababayan.
During martial law, most women joined the MNLF because government soldiers were chasing them. Some, especially the pretty ones, were forced to marry the soldiers.
Inaasawa nila yung mga kababayan, lalo na yung magagandang mga dalaga.
Karoon ng martial law, tapos parang mahirapan kami mag-aral dahil...
It was very hard to continue schooling during martial law because soldiers controlled all our movements. We couldn't do anything but join the MNLF because they were already there in our area. If we didn't join, we wouldn't be able to get our copra in the mountains.
Kopras namin sa bundok.
Narinig namin yung sabi ng kwan. Sabi ko, baka dito na sa atin.
We heard the explosion and one of my comrades said that the bombs were starting to drop nearby. A lot of people got injured at the time. Children, the elderly. I will never forget that.
Mga matanda, yun ang hindi namin malilimutan.
Mas mahirap sakripisyo pag inuulanan ka ng...
It's a big sacrifice when bombs start raining down on you. It's the hardest thing you have to do because you have to look for some place to hide. You can fight the bombs because they are dropped from the sky.
Mataguan kasi hindi ka makakalaban sa kanila dahil bomba yung galing sa taas.
In time and after many more sacrifices, the two became prominent leaders in the MNLF. Napisa's strength of character earned her the title of Ustads, a male teacher in Arabic, connoting leadership, respect, and high esteem. While Naramin moved up the ranks and became one of the first members of the MNLF to undergo foreign training in the Middle East, notably Syria, Egypt, and Libya. More than 2 decades later, when time finally came to descend from the mountains, it was no surprise that Ustads Napisa and Commander Naramin both felt at a loss. By virtue of the 1996 peace agreement between the government and the MNLF, which is just one of the major rebel groups in Mindanao, they were forced to begin a new chapter in their adult lives.
Tapos na ang MNLF, nawalan ako ng mga anak buhay.
I lost my livelihood after the MNLF. I lost my home and my belongings.
At saka, yung lahat ng kwan ko na naubos.
Pero walang sweldo, sige lang.
We didn't have any earnings. If the MNLF Council gave us transportation allowance or food, it was okay. We couldn't get any funds if it weren't for various donor agencies.
Gumawa kami ng lambat para isda.
We made nets to catch fish. We had a difficult time after we left the MNLF.
Paglabas namin.
The 1996 peace agreement had hoped to catalyze renewed interest and progress in the region by first providing direct financial support for 45,000 MNLF fighters. But severely hit by the Asian economic crisis and the weather phenomena of El Nino and La Nina, the already cash-strapped Philippine government turned to foreign-assisted agencies for help.
After the peace agreement was signed with the Moro National Liberation Front in 1996, it was really important that there must be immediate intervention in terms of improving the lives of people, especially assisting the former combatants. The coming in of donor nations and donor agencies like USAID had really put in flesh what was really intended in that agreement.